Hello, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening to the audio, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community. It is a one-off Sunday night Ask James stream. It's just gone past 8 p.m. UK time on Sunday, March 8th. Reason for the change to schedule is I'm off to Madrid tomorrow afternoon, so the schedule this week looks a little bit different, although there is, as per usual, a full week of content to look forward to. It's just starting a little bit earlier. Reminder, Chip Strategy podcast on Thursday once I'm back from Madrid. Some questions on this stream are going to be difficult to answer, in the sense that the answer I give you now may well be different in 48 hours once the FA Cup quarter-final draw, which is scheduled for around about 7 p.m. UK time tomorrow, is gone. Following the 7 FA Cup ties already played, and it won't matter what happens in the West Ham Brentford game tomorrow night, the projections have not changed. They haven't changed unbelievably since I put the projections together in August. The same four favoured teams for the FA Cup semi-finals, Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City and Arsenal, are still the favoured four teams. That will be the case if they all avoid each other in tomorrow's draw. If any of them draw each other, that will change. We will analyse that one way or the other on Thursday. As usual, I will cover questions in order of submission up until 9 p.m. UK time. Nothing else particularly to announce, so let's get into the questions. Grounders is up first. Says, hi James, given the wildcard time for the double game weeks, what are your thoughts on the best punts? I mean, again, we end up with a scenario tomorrow where Man City draw Arsenal, Liverpool draw Chelsea, and Leeds get Port Vale, and the winner of West Ham Brentford get, who else went through today? Southampton. You've got a very different outlook for what the projections are going to look like, right? Very, very different. And it's going to be difficult to pick which one of the so-called four favoured are going to qualify to that stage as well. If you're asking me about wildcarding now, the answer is going to be different after tomorrow. So, look, in terms of teams to target at this moment in time, because of the fixtures still right in front of you, it's similar, right? Liverpool, Fulham, Brentford, Bournemouth, same as it was a couple of weeks ago. It's not massively different to that, I'm afraid, mate. Anthony Lowry says, hi, James. It's great that two non-Prem clubs are in the quarterfinals. Has these couple of shots caused more or less chaos in FPL? Cheers for the Sunday stream. Much appreciated. Enjoy Madrid. It's the draw. It's always about the draw at this stage is what will cause the most chaos. Like I said, if the four favoured clubs avoid each other, then the projections, in terms of my projections, have remained unchanged for the best part of 6 months, right? If that changes with the draw, then yeah, but does it cause chaos? I mean, for example, let's take a scenario where Leeds draw Port Vale at home. Leeds would be heavily favoured. It's at that point tomorrow night you will start thinking, oh my God, right, we are looking at a scenario here where Bournemouth and Leeds are going to blank in 34 and every chance that that fixture gets brought forward to 33. It's going to change the psyche. So it depends on the draw, right? You might even end up with something tomorrow night where, I don't know, let's say Arsenal, Liverpool avoid each other. They'll be favoured to go through. Leeds, say they avoid each other and Leeds have got the same draw at home to Port Vale, and let's say Man City are at home to Chelsea, then you're still going to favour Man City as favourites to go through. It's just now you're replacing Chelsea in the projections with Leeds, right? Essentially under that sort of circumstance. So it's the draw. It's how clear are the ties. Like I said, almost for me, and for those of us engaged, truthfully, my viewpoint is it the more chaos, the better. So if we have a draw that's like Manchester City at home to Arsenal and Chelsea at home to Liverpool, those ties become very difficult to predict. Even if you could then have it and say, right, it's Leeds against Brentford, for example. Maybe Port Vale draws Southampton. That's the obvious note. Is obviously if Port Vale and Southampton draw each other, then it's a maximum of 6 teams will double in 34. We've knocked out 2 teams potentially under that scenario. So those who want a bench boost, right, you don't want that eventuality, right? You want 2 teams that are going to draw them and will obviously expect to beat them. But as seen today, weird shit happens in the FA Cup sometimes. It was a brief period on Saturday where it looked like Wrexham might turn over Chelsea. I've not watched any of the games today. I watched Wrexham Chelsea yesterday. I watched the second half of Liverpool Friday night, and I watched pretty much from about the 20-minute mark of Newcastle Manchester City last night as well. City were very good from that period, but I understand Newcastle played quite well in the opening 20 minutes. Hiradi says, hi James, did you watch the T20 World Cup cricket final today? Mate, I wouldn't even know it was in it. As I just said, I spent the afternoon with the family. I didn't even watch any of the FA Cup games today, mate. Super Lion says, hi James, I've got a fantasy draft coming up. Who would be your top 7 picks in order across all positions till the end of the season? Till the end of the season. You want top 7? Do you want me to give you 28 players? I'm not going to give you 28 players. I'll give you 7 players that get across all of it. Goalkeeper. We want something that's going to cover the blank as well, don't we? Cole Darlow's a bit risky at this stage. Maybe Kelleher at this point. Maybe till the end of the season. Defenders still Gabriel. I'd put Trevor Chalobah, Virgil van Dijk in the conversation there. Even though Chelsea got tough fixtures, I wouldn't mind sticking Trevor Chalobah in there in the immediate. Midfielders, Semenyo, Fernandes, fairly obviously. Forwards, Haaland, Ekiteke, Thiago, João Pedro. It's boring, isn't it? Hiradi says, do you think Chelsea have a good chance of beating PSG and advancing to the quarters, given that PSG haven't been as good this season as they were last? I said this on certainly on a bit of content recently that I think they've got a goalkeeper problem at the moment. It's not helping them. They lost at home to Monaco over the weekend, who they obviously knocked out in the last round. Me and David have just recorded our UCL Fantasy podcast for patrons that will be out early in the morning. And we think that's the closest tie, actually. Is probably that. Is PSG Chelsea. I think Chelsea got a decent chance of beating them. I think PSG would be favourites. I would still probably favour them to go through. But yeah, I think Chelsea got a decent chance, mate. Cole Sliver says, hi James, hope you're well. I'm considering using wildcard and free hit to navigate 33-34. Do you think with Leeds versus Burnley in 35, it could be a good game week for bench boost? So Cole, I mentioned this on the last chip strategy podcast we did, that for those who were looking to bench boost in 33, if suddenly the circumstance changed and it's like, oh my God, shit, the FA Cup's... I mean, there is a scenario here where we only have 4 teams doubling in 33, right? What if Port Vale and Southampton make the semi-finals? It's not the most improbable thing in the world. Imagine we had this FA Cup semi-final lineup that was like Brentford, Leeds, Port Vale, Southampton. I mean, great for the competition. Not so great for you looking to bench boost probably in 33 under that sort of scenario. I mentioned on that chip strategy podcast that if 33 suddenly looked terrible, there was a potential out of game week 35 involving primarily assets around Leeds and Sunderland, because Sunderland also play Wolves in game week 35, and you'll need balance, right? So something like if you're wildcard in 33, you're saying free hit 34, using wildcard 1, free hit the other. Okay, fine. Then yeah, you can set up whichever way you want to potentially look at bench boost 35. It's probably not going to be great, I'll be real, but it might be the best out of what you've got left if you are not intending to use your bench boost across 33. I know there are some, like I said, who will want to use it, say, this week coming. I mentioned on the previous chip strategy podcast, it was a consideration for me to keep game week 30 available as a potential out. The draw will dictate whether that's right for people or not. T.I. says, hi James, Wirtz versus Bumo, still got wild card. At this moment in time, probably Florian Wirtz, but obviously take the information you get from Liverpool in Turkey on Tuesday night. I think you'd probably be keen for Wirtz to start, and there isn't a guarantee that he does. My question point on it would be with Wirtz at the moment, right? Okay, so let's say he just gets a cameo, plays half hour or so on Tuesday. It doesn't mean he's a bad pick, but what's the consequence? Who comes out the team for Tottenham on Sunday? Is it McAllister? Is it Gakpo? What's the consequence? And if I don't know the answer to that, then that would make me lean towards Bumo. If I feel like I've got clarity on that on Tuesday night, then a preference would be Wirtz. Thinking Cap says, how would you rank all of the premiums, Salah, Haaland, Saka, Palmer, in double game week 33, assuming all double? Feel like nailing that combo is crucial to a successful end of the season. Truthfully, it may also depend on what their involvement is in European competition. So we can probably assume that Arsenal will still be in European competition. I think that would be a big surprise. If they're not, we may end up with a circumstance where Manchester City and Chelsea go out inside the next 10 days, in which case I'll maybe say to you Haaland and Palmer, but Chelsea's fixtures aren't great from 32 till the end, one of the tougher runs of fixtures. So if you ask me right now, I'd say Haaland, Salah. I'd say that's probably going a bit too deep. You obviously haven't included Fernandes in that, and Fernandes would be right near the top of that list, obviously, as well. So European competition, context of what's important in the league, is the title race done? What even if we have a scenario where, let's say City are still in the Champions League, but Arsenal pull 10 points clear? The City going to put all their eggs in the Champions League, in which case does Haaland play at Burnley in 34, for example? Maybe he doesn't, even if it is the 33 midweek. So again, these sort of questions are not easy to answer now. If Manchester City go to the Bernabeu and win 3-0, okay, City got a quarter-final at least, but that quarter-final was against Bayern Munich. At the point that you wild card, you may not know whether City are going to semi-final or not. I would factor that sort of thing into the answer. On the face of it right now, as it is, I'd probably say from that lot, Haaland and Salah. But that's also taking the most of your budget, mate. Hasselbank's win says James, number one percentage-wise. No, James, 1. Percentage-wise, what's your probability estimate of Spurs going down? 2, if you stay up, what needs to change? 3, if you go down, who would stay at the club? 4, what would a season ticket cost? Okay. I'll answer all of them. Percentage-wise, would I think of Tottenham going down at the moment? I think it's probably circa sort of 40-45%, somewhere in there. That might be a little high. I'm just trying to think. I'd probably rate West Ham slightly less than that. Maybe 35 to 40. For me, Tottenham are favourites to go down now. It's not me being pessimistic. It's what I say with my eyes. And I actually think, as I said on the weekend with David Friday, I don't understand how anyone doesn't think it'll be Tottenham at this moment. But look, there's still a number of games to go. Technically, we ain't even in the bottom 3. So I think us 40-45%. Maybe West Ham sort of 30-35%. Forest less. I'd put Leeds at under 5% personally, me. Bookies might have that slightly different. I don't know. I don't really want to know. Second part of the question is if we stay up, what needs to change? Listen back to the weekender, mate. The ownership needs to change. The people running the football operations need to leave the football club. And about 75% of the squad needs to be sold. That's the starting point. The unfortunate bit, if we stay up, is we won't sell that much. If we go down, who would stay at the club? That I've just answered. What would a season ticket cost? Mine is not one of the cheaper ones, in fairness, but also nowhere near one of the most expensive ones either. Mine, I think it's 1375. I think the season ticket pricing has been released. I wouldn't expect a reduction if we were relegated. I would imagine Tottenham would argue that, well, you've got 4 extra games. They'll probably need to do things like maybe throwing cup games on top of that as well, maybe, as a possibility. But I wouldn't expect them to say, right, okay, it's 20% cheaper. I wouldn't. I don't think they will. So the most expensive average ticket price in the Premier League might become the most expensive ticket price in the country and not be in the Premier League. Yeah, it's a possibility. Next up is Cole says, as a neutral, do you think Newcastle need to replace Howe in the summer? I'm not sure on this. I'm really not. Because arguably if Newcastle don't qualify for Europe, he's the best place to take it forward again next year. It probably, what are Newcastle going for instead? Maybe the answer is that rather than should Eddie Howe stay or go, maybe it's, right, if Newcastle think they can go and get, I don't know, Diego Simeone or something, do they think that's an upgrade significant enough to take it forward? I imagine under that sort of circumstance, many Newcastle fans may feel that way. I think you've seen the good and the bad of Newcastle just in the last 7 days. that effort to beat Manchester United is incredible. But then I think yesterday against an understrength Manchester City, what I watched was pretty disappointing, actually. And the game almost went into a resignation of saved legs for Tuesday night. And I understand it was a really tough week for Newcastle. So I don't think I certainly wouldn't sit and say they've got to change. Not at all. It might even be the consequence of maybe they should start looking and what can they get. And if they think they can have a significant upgrade, then okay. Otherwise, if they haven't got European competition, I would not be at all surprised if Eddie Howe took them back to, say, top 5 next season. Leachel Craft says, hi, James. Would you rather win Champions League or get relegated? I mean, I don't have a will to get relegated, mate. I don't know if your question is meant to be, would I take both? Yeah, I'd take both, yeah. Yeah, bollocks to it, mate. Is my club ever going to win the Champions League? Probably not. So I'll take that as a one-off. Yeah. Would I rather win the Champions League or get relegated, as you've written? Rather win the Champions League, wouldn't I? Steve Sedman says, should I get Salah and Pedro for free for Haaland and Rodgers, or get Pedro and Anderson? Got Krupi and Rodgers. So, look, I'm not going to talk you out of Liverpool asset when they're about to play Tottenham. One thing we've obviously learnt this weekend is with City winning, it's near impossible now that City and Palace will play in 31. It's still marginally possible if both clubs win out of Europe, but I think under that circumstance, 32 would be more likely, and I actually think even probably 35 would be more likely. I think there's something significant in the TV selections, which I'll cover on Thursday's pod. I won't bore you with it now. That means that Sky have tried to push City Palace back towards near the end of the season. So at this point, if you've still got your triple captaincy, at this point, it's quite likely that City will have an additional double somewhere. I think the Premier League would like it earlier. Sky might be doing little bits to try and force it. It's a little bit later, possibly. Yeah, Salah, Pedro route. But ultimately as well, Chelsea, Wednesday PSG, following Tuesday PSG, Saturday Newcastle. You need to be confident, for me, to make the change now that you believe João Pedro is going to start against Newcastle. I just don't think until that game goes on Wednesday night, you can be confident. This is the exact sort of question to say, okay, I can give you an answer now. Oh, PSG had 25% possession. They were down to 10 men and João Pedro played 90 minutes. Oh, I'm a bit worried now, right? Well, there's things like that that could obviously have an impact in terms of your final decision now. Drisbel Mandy says, how much longer can I wait while João Pedro and Semenyo damage my rank each week as I wait for wildcard 32, 33 or 35 versus deal with the exposure now with 2 free transfers? I mean, I definitely wouldn't chase after Semenyo at this point if I didn't own. I bought last week. That was almost as much about captaincy insurance as anything else, i.e. if Haaland didn't make it, I felt he was the next best choice. Would I go and buy him this week if I didn't own? No. After West Ham, a game in which he might see restricted minutes for similar reasons of what I said about João Pedro. He's blank. Chelsea might be single against Arsenal. Right, let's take it on. So, I definitely wouldn't chase after Semenyo. João Pedro, I understand a lot more because he's in red-hot form. Data's good. Returns are good. If you feel confident in him going into next Saturday, bearing in mind we might even get a slightly rotated Newcastle team, is the other side of that, next weekend, then yeah, be my guess. I certainly wouldn't chase after Semenyo at this moment. Or any other Manchester City players, for that matter. So if it's Nico Riley instead, okay, he's back. Let it go. Rory Mack says, potentially on bench boost, 2 free transfers. Plan is Krupi will be sold to Thiago, but will need some money from selling either Haaland to Pedro, Bumo to Tavernier, Timber to Vandenberg. Do you have a preference? I mean, not Timber, but I also understand the blank consequence of that. So, truthfully, yes, probably Haaland to Pedro on the face of it. Bearing in mind, it will give you an extra player in 31 as well. But again, you're going to want the answer for that later in the week, aren't you? Cole says, all the best for the game, Madrid. Thank you, mate. Be honest, I don't really care about it. I'm going to have a good time and get away from talk about the bottom 3 and hope they put on a better performance, and anything else would be a bonus. At this moment in time, listen, if we go through, I'll be really happy, but I am not going to give the slightest shit if we go out, mate. Urus says, evening James, thoughts on game week 30 bench boost, teams players to target. I've got Dubravka, Wilson, Anderson on my bench and 2 free transfers, 1.8 million to upgrade Goo to potentially bench boost. Here was my only clash in my 11. So you mentioned Wilson. Right, what are you going to do on Friday if Marco Silva says, well, he's still not trained well this week? Right, you going to sell him as well? Maybe. Anderson, I would think, comes back into the team. On the face of it, I think there's questions there. Anderson obviously played today. I know they lost. I'd imagine he stays in the team personally. He's probably got minutes in a rotated side because he's not played for the last week or so. And I imagine from what Marco Silva said on Friday that Harry Wilson will probably be back. You need to have absolute confidence, not just in the bench, but the 15, right? Gu would obviously need to go. If you are targeting, it is same teams that I've mentioned: Liverpool, Fulham, Bournemouth, Brentford, Chelsea, subject to what happens in Paris and how you feel afterwards, maybe come into that category as well, right? Sunderland maybe another one, possibly. You might not want to look at Newcastle in weighing 31, but home fixtures either side are good. It's not going to be anything that's particularly out there at this stage, mate. Taylor says, evening, James. Would you say you believe or have ever believed in any football conspiracies like hot and cold balls in a cup draw? Well, there was one earlier in the season, didn't I? I said about watch for Crystal Palace to get a really tough Carabao Cup tie, and they got Crystal Palace away. Liverpool away, sorry. Only for Liverpool to play a kids team, basically. So, no, not really. I think the most obvious one is Argentina 78. I think that would, yeah, that's something wasn't right there, I don't think. Oni Dazia, hello, my friend, says, hi, James. Will there be a fan view with Ricky Saunders in the next coming weeks? There won't. We've just very recently done one, but I can tell you that it will be on Clash of Correspondence next week with Mark Southerns to preview Tottenham Hotspur versus Nottingham Forest ahead of game week 31. Also got Everton v Chelsea next week with Sean and Gary. Burnley and Bournemouth with Jack and Neil. I've just recorded with the guys, be out for you later in the week as well. Oni, by the way, is guesting on a couple of bits on Patreon this week with Nico. And that show with Nico and myself will be out for you on Tuesday. Bruno Fernandefcon says, what to do with players like O'Reilly, Rice and a Crystal Palace defender? Do we sell now or in 31? So Palace, good fixture this week. Home to Leeds, it's reasonable. And Lacroix will obviously be back from suspension. You've held this week. Maybe it would have gone last week if you were going to sell. Declan Rice, you shouldn't be in a rush to sell before Everton this weekend. And Nico O'Reilly, I think obviously depends how you feel following City's game on Wednesday night about whether you think he's going to start at West Ham or not. So on the face of it now, O'Reilly probably first to go, I would say. Also, Arsenal and Crystal Palace both have better game week 32 fixtures than Manchester City. Certainly a Manchester City defensive asset anyway. So you might want to factor that in. But if you think all three play, why rush it? They've all got decent fixtures in 30. Daniel Mackey says, has rotating in the Cups gone too far? Surely mid-table teams like Fulham should be going all out in the Cups. It's two sides to this. I think Liam Rosenior made some really good points following Chelsea's victory last night about you've got a big squad. You want them all to be, if you have an injury, kind of plug and ready that they can go. And unless they get regular match sharpness, that's difficult. At the same time, you obviously want to progress in the cup competitions, but you need to give these guys minutes somewhere. And so many teams do it. Ultimately, if Chelsea lost at Wrexham, would we be critical in the same way? Well, no, Chelsea got Champions League and they're fighting for top 5. I get it. But Fulham will have had a number of players who haven't played much recently they wanted to give minutes to. Yeah, it's disappointing, but they also could have played their first team, might have been a bit undermotivated, or it's just Southampton. Whereas actually you stick some of these guys in the team and they're highly motivated to impress because they want to try and push for a first team place and stuff. I do think it's a narrative we can spin either way. I do get disappointed, truthfully, myself personally, when clubs like Fulham, in a very comfortable league position, go out under these sort of circumstances. I'm sure Fulham fans are really disappointed today. Sunderland picked a relatively strong team at Port Vale, right? And still went out. So maybe they'd have picked a rotated side and maybe Sunderland would have gone through. We can always be quite hindsighty about these things. I don't disagree with the point at all, right? If it was my club, I'd be pretty pissed off, particularly at this stage and with a good draw, knowing that there might be another good draw to come. Yeah, I would be pretty pissed off and vexed about it. but I do understand both sides of the argument. Anurag Mishra says, hi James, thoughts on today's FA Cup results? What do they mean for future moves? They don't mean too much at this stage. Look, we have some clarity on a few more games in terms of that they'll definitely play in game week 34 and not double. So if you take someone like me that's got Wilson, Anderson and Morgan Rogers, were I to try and run straight through to game week 33, that looks a little bit more difficult. Yeah, on the face of it, they would have maybe been 3 of my weaker players as it stand game week 33, and I would have projected them to single. Obviously, for me, the bench boost is gone, right? Where we're trying to run through without a wild card and get to a bench boost, and you had those 3 players, that would probably be problematic. I'd the 2 Fulham players away to Brentford and just upgrade Rodgers in 33. Sunderland Forest doesn't have any impact to me personally, and I don't think will most others for 34. I'd say they're not, on the face of it, brilliant fixtures for those who want to free hit in 34, but we're going to get more stuff opens up. Tomorrow night, we will find out whether that's West Ham against Everton or Manchester United and Brentford, and there will obviously be more for game week 34. But they don't change too much, truthfully. It's the draw that has the big impact next in terms of our outlook on what we foresee. The results today, nah. Because ultimately, neither Sunderland nor Fulham would have been projected to double in 33 anyway, right? So now it's just Port Vale and Southampton have taken their places on that. And, okay, if either of them makes the semi-final, then, okay, that's a few less teams doubling in 33. Side Action says, hello, James. If your value lost is same for both Semenyo, have Bruno, Rogers, Wilson, Dango, and Haaland, have Ekiteke, Thiago, who do you prefer to sell to have a full 11 in 31, playing back 3 and to whom? So, interesting. So from Semenyo, subject to what you've got in the bank, you might be able to get to. You can get to Verts. It's just something I'll look at potentially. Might be able to, for some others, get up to, say, someone like Bumo. Someone asked Verts versus Bumo earlier, for example. It wouldn't be clear in my mind what that choice between those 2 players would be at this moment. Haaland naturally would probably be to João Pedro at this moment, but I'd need clarity on his minutes in 30 to feel comfortable about it. I mean, ultimately, if I thought Haaland was going to start at West Ham and wasn't sure about João Pedro playing Newcastle, then we wouldn't be making that move, right? The consequence, of course, of a move like Haaland to João Pedro, or whether it's Ekiteke, Thiago, or Jared Bowen, whatever instead, is the money in the bank makes you look at stuff. And under an example where I go Haaland to João Pedro, I'm going to look at Salah playing my team and actually think he's probably worth a -4. And maybe we'll end up making that sort of move, but I ain't going to even think about it till tomorrow night's draw has gone. I mean that honestly. GBFF says, hey James, thanks for the Sunday stream. Do you always think the sheer volume of rotation in the FA Cup was destined to be a thing, even without the heavy schedule, more prize money elsewhere, etc.? Yeah, it's a very fair point. I mean, what the financial implications are of, say, 6-7 positions in the league versus actually winning the FA Cup, it's more relevant. It's true, unfortunately, from a financial perspective. I don't know how much influence owners would have in terms of briefing their managers and say, look, we want you to go all out to win the FA Cup. We're in a safe position. Don't worry about the league. Make that your sort of priority. I don't imagine that sort of conversation happens too much. In any case, I think a manager would say, look, I need to give minutes to player X, Y, Z. This is the best opportunity to do it. And realistically, for Fulham looking at the week, this was the right game, right? It's just gone wrong for them. So you ain't going to be able to put significantly more money into the FA Cup to change that, unfortunately. Now, if the caveat was, win the FA Cup and you'll nick the 5th Champions League place, then maybe Fulham look at something like that differently, because then there is a big money incentive via virtue of winning the competition would bring Champions League football. Maybe that would change it. It's something I'd advocate for. It's highly likely most seasons moving forward that 5th will be enough to get in the Champions League now. I would advocate for that 4th place would not get a Champions League place unless 5th was also going to be enough. and therefore one of the Champions League spots went to the FA Cup winner. Oh, but we can't have Fulham's in the Champions League. Listen, if they win the FA Cup, let them go in it. They'd be champions or something. Let them go in it. Taylor says, is the wildcard 33 strategy mainly for people who've used their bench boost? Cheers. Yeah, but not all. I think, again, let's see what happens with the projections and stuff. But I think many people have identified, for example, okay, let's take a different example. Let's say Arsenal draw Man City in the FA Cup and they go out, right? And then you want a wild card 32 and you want to take out your Arsenal assets at home to Bournemouth because Arsenal have just got a single fixture away to Man City. Reasonable, but are you actually making your 32 team better? Also, you got Manchester United at home to Leeds, who may not double unless obviously Brentford make a semi-final. Do you want to take them out? So if you're under a scenario where, let's say you've got 6 from Arsenal and Manchester United, and it was really good home fixtures, and you may want a wild card and take those 6 players out, is that right? That's the question. Is that right? Similarly, let's say Liverpool don't make it. Liverpool got Fulham at home. Oh, they're just going to have Everton away in 33. You can take Liverpool players out home to Fulham. I'll give a very good reason on the Thursday Chip Strategy podcast why you actually may want to do that as and when it comes round. But on the face of it, what are you going to do? You're going to wildcard into a worse team. So this is where what the final lineup is going to be really important, right? And I imagine there's some people have looked at it and gone, I don't think I can wildcard to a better team in 32 under these sort of circumstances. So it's the ability to pivot. One of the things I said on the last Chip Strategy podcast was that those dead ending to game week 31 need to prepare for the possibility that they pivot and decide to dead end in 32 instead. That's it. It may not need to happen. By the way, you ain't going to know till the week before you come. So one of the things I'm really going to stress on the Chip Strategy podcast on Thursday is for those who are going to wildcard in game week 32, I suggest you don't activate as soon as the 31 deadline goes. I suggest you wait 2 weeks. Unless it feels absolutely clear. If we've got a scenario where Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea are all at home in the quarterfinals and you strongly fancy them all to go through, which we would, and people want to take the chance, be my guest. But under a scenario where we've got a cocked up FA Cup draw, I really don't think people should be activating their wild card. In an ideal world, 3 weeks to make decisions. I get it. But other than the first 2-3 days, there won't be a lot to chase in terms of value. And value is way less important at this stage of the season. You either afford someone or you don't. And that will be a warning that will go out on Thursday. Sidashian says, hello James, you have 1 free transfer on game week 31 and your backline is VVD, Alderete, Estev and 2 Arsenal, Gabriel and Timber. Would you use it to sell Timber to field a better third defender than Estev or Roll? Smash it. Yeah, smash a like, please, everyone. Good crowd in tonight. Smash a like. Hit the sub. What you got to think about it like this is just logical. Take a step back. He said, we look at the immediate problem, 31. But like I said, what if you end up dead end 32? Are you not going to wish you had Timber for Bournemouth at home? Quite possibly, right? Now, if it's definitive, I'm wildcarding 32 and there's a gain there to be sold off the Arsenal defender, fine. But I also think the 31 fixtures are a bit shit. Estev is probably a 2 or 3 pointer away to Fulham, right? It's the reality. Probably it's DEFCON. It's probably 2 or 3 pointer subject to the final score. And you never know your luck. Alderete, probably it's DEFCON Newcastle away. Similar return. Okay. So for that transfer to be worthwhile, you've got to hit a return. You've got to hit a return from the player you buy. Now, looking at the fixtures in 31, who do you fancy? Who do you fancy? Because right now, there ain't a lot. Anderson's got Burnley at home. Okay, cool. Right. But Fulham don't keep many clean sheets, the reality. And it's a lower probability DEFCON game than it would be for normal. No, I would probably, in most scenarios, rather that you focused on an attacking transfer in most scenarios. Matt Smith says, Spurs going down may be good long-term opportunity to offload high earners, give youth a chance, fans having an appreciation that being in the EFL isn't a right. Love the show. Hi from San Francisco. Yeah, thank you, Matt. I mean, I refer back on Tottenham, a lot of the conversation I obviously had with David on the weekend or on Friday. God, there's a lot of questions in here tonight. I'm never going to get through all these. NT says, hi, James. Any chance Jockey Madison might lose his spot in a similar way to Nathan Collins? Also, would you bench Morgan Rogers or Alderete for game week 30? On Anderson, no, look, he's leader of the back line. You could look at it and say he's played today and they lost. You can also look at it and say we didn't play on Wednesday against West Ham and they lost. So I no doubt in my mind personally that Marco Silva would favour Joachim Anderson over Issa Diop. Absolutely no doubt about that in my mind at all. That said, I totally accept your point you make about Nathan Collins. That was surprising, but it was also an injury-led factor that I think with the stitches he had in his foot may have played a part originally, and then Vandenberg and Ajer did very well together. I don't think actually we'd look at Bassi and Diop and say, oh, it's done this, that and the other, personally. Even Tottenham scored against them. Would I bench Rogers or Alderete in 30? Probably still Alderete, I think. Anurag Mishra says, how confident are you for the Atletico game? I say Tottenham are at least getting a draw. At least, yeah? Okay, what are you smoking? Send it in the post. Daz J10 says, hi James, is a bench boost of Kelleher, Maguire, Enzo and Gordon good enough for next week? It might be, but it ain't if you don't think Enzo and Gordon are not going to start. Also, if you got Kelleher on the bench at home to Wolves, I do hope your other goalkeeper is David Raya. That's about the one circumstance where I'd accept that. Maguire, home to Villa. Okay, so we could be down to Kelleher and Maguire and 1 pointers from the other two, possibly. Listen, if you think they're all going to start on the face of it, yeah, sure. But I don't know how the rest of your team is potentially going to line up, whether you've got a wild card left, but it seems okay. Stuart Webb says, hi James, I'm an Oxford fan. Just have to say, if you go down, Lancashire will bang 20 plus for you. Unbelievable young talent, super physical, great runs, beginning to find the net regularly. Yeah, like Will. Short of yard of pace. I don't think that will matter so much in that league. I referenced Will amongst a number of players on Friday, and if we go down, Will Lancashire will either be Tottenham's number 9 or probably first choice backup next season. Stuart says, if Oxford stay up, he is the main reason. Look, it's very pleasing to hear, Stuart. Leonard Dimitrov says, hi James, you're around 10k. What is the proper risk management till the end? Would you rather be aggressive or more template? It's not that straightforward. Suj asked me that question on Monday. I mean, look, I didn't have a great week in game week 29, obviously off the back of having a very good week in game week 28. A few people have asked me recently about going aggressive and differential, and I've said, like, in the immediate, because we don't really know the lay of the land so much, just focus in the immediate on Josh, trying to get as many points as you can, however that goes. So, like, I didn't not buy Semenyo last week because I need to go a bit different if I want to make up those 130 odd points the first. That's obviously a pipe dream anyway. So I don't think it's that straightforward, and people's circumstances be different, right? Because I might be sitting at 9k and I might think, right, well, my goal here is to win the correspondent mini league, right? Now, I might need to be aggressive to do that, or I might need to be defensive, and that might become my priority. I've never fussed on it too much. Look, a top 10k rank would be great. I think also psychologically for myself, that's not something I've done before. So it may well play on my mind towards the end when I'm like, I can't finish 1k. I want to sit and protect here. That's a possibility. But if there is even a 1 or 2% chance of trying to win the game, then I will go mad. You're probably going to get like Dango Utara captaincy and shit like that in the running. That's probably a bad example because they don't have fixtures, but I think you get my point. I probably would go like really rogue at the end and just accept my fate however it lands. So it's not black and white to give you an answer at this moment, and I realise that will be different for different people. Craig Meredith says, what to do with Rodgers? I've got 5 known players in 31 2-3 transfers. Hold. That's it, isn't it? Ultimately, he very nearly got an assist the other night. He's still, if Villa have a good day, then maybe he has a good day. He doesn't feel like it at the moment. I wouldn't advise other people to go and buy him. I'm in a luxurious position, I guess, in the sense that as it stands, he's an easy bench for me, actually, in game week 30. I play him 31, and we'll see about the afterwards as and when. Apex Lions says, the FA Cup draw, Brentford against City. I mean, it's not till tomorrow. I don't know if that's a guess. JP Zizou says, how overrated is Van der Ven? I'll just part that back to what I said about Mickey on Friday's podcast. Brucey says, evening, James. Hope you're well. Hope you are too. Furniture says, hey, James, listening from the gym in NC. Is that Newcastle? Is that Newport County? Is that New York City? Dermot Whelan says, hi, James. If Spurs were to go down, what away days would you be most looking forward to? Have you done them, or is there a few you haven't been to in a while? I think we did. Me and Dad looked when we come back from Burnley. So yeah, this isn't a new thing. Like, we've been looking at it for a while. I think there's 5 or 6 we haven't done, I think, from memory. Although that includes a couple that might go down, like Sheffield Wednesday and Oxford. But then there's 2 that are going to come up by the looks of it, Cardiff and Lincoln, that I haven't done. So, I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, regular listeners to the streams will know Sheffield Wednesday is the one that I've wanted a while. Like, yeah, that's the one I want to go to as the biggest one in the country I haven't been to. But yeah, it would be the ones that I haven't done. So, I mean, the most exciting one to me is Millwall, but I realise they may come up as well. Bristol City, never even been to Bristol, so I think Bristol City I'd like, but I've done most of them. Portsmouth's another one I haven't done. That looks like a shit away end. Sorry. But I'd like to experience Fratton Park. So it's the ones that I haven't done that I would look forward to them, rather than, oh, I get to go to Preston again. I've done it, right? So it would be those. Yeah, there's a few I haven't done for quite a long time, like Blackburn, for example. If they stay up, would be good. It's the ones that have been regular and like the Leicesters, the Southampton, stuff that I'm not fussed about, right? Olmo Esco says, Palace West Ham in 33 scheduled for Monday night TV. If Liverpool make FA Cup semi-final, projection remains Liverpool Palace from 34 would still go 33. Yeah, under that circumstance, the Palace West Ham game will move. But Palace West Ham might not move to accommodate Man City versus Palace under a scenario where Liverpool and Man City both went out the FA Cup. That's what I was referring to, and I'll mention that again on Thursday. Statis says, hello, James. Trying to think of it. The only thing I'd say to that, Olmo, if Liverpool lose to Galatasaray, then that changes. Because then I think there's every chance Liverpool Palace would go in a different way. But also needs Palace to go out of Europe as well, right? Essentially, if Liverpool are still in Europe and they get to the FA Cup semi-finals, that fixture has to come forward. Has to. I mean this. Has to come forward. And Palace West Ham has a provision to move. It's 2 London sides. It's not a huge big deal if it moves. Statis says, hello, James. Trying to think of a question. You think of one, mate. Chelsea Stew says, hi, James. If I have Haaland, O'Reilly, do I keep through to week 32? Depends on the rest, and it also depends on how you feel about their prospective minutes for game week 30, ultimately. We can't answer that right now. I would be very surprised if those 2 players didn't start in the Bernabeu and then didn't start the second leg. JP Zizou says, honestly, what are the Spurs fan base consensus about relegation? Do they think it will happen? What is the run-in like in comparison to the other relegation candidates? Fixtures, I think, are similar for Tottenham, Forest, West Ham. There's a case to say at this point that West Ham probably still slightly have the worst of it. But they've got better form, better players. So most Tottenham fans think that we're going down, mate. There's no arrogance about it as far as I can say. There's a will to get out of it, but I've yet to find a Tottenham fan say, it'll be fine. It's not there. Most of us are watching the team every week, so we can see what's in front of our face. CM Punk says, we'll have 2 free transfers in 31, the full 11. Would you make a transfer to bench any of the following? Alderete, Hill, Enzo, have Tavernier, Wilson, Bruno, Boomer. Strategy might be dependent on this. So, under a circumstance, excuse me, where, okay, let's say you don't want to have Hill going up against Bruno Fernandes and Bumo, and you're also thinking that you're going to run through 32, then there's maybe a case to say, oh, right, I'm a dip into someone else for 2 weeks or so. But also, as said earlier, for someone else, I'd probably focus more on the moves offensively. Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea play on the Tuesday before 31. You're probably all right for minutes away to Everton, I would think. I wouldn't be desperate to move down. Sean McGing says, evening, James, debating whether to get Pedro in, have Ekiteke, Thiago and Haaland, free transfers. Do you think it's worth losing one of them? Certainly not Thiago or Ekiteke at this point. Haaland is going to be see how you feel after Wednesday night. Simon Baker says, hey, James, these doubles are going to be crap, aren't they? Best just to focus on 4-5 week runs rather than what looks like quite a dodgy pool of doubles. For example, who plays for City v Burnley? Take your pick. Yeah. But also there might be a circumstance where City play Arsenal on the Sunday, Burnley on the Wednesday, have an FA Cup semi-final against Port Vale on the Sunday afterwards. Right, what do you do under that circumstance? Are you then sweating about the City lineup against Burnley? Maybe you're not. So there's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes, right? Listen, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it could be really good for bench boosters. It could be shit. Taylor says, "Hi James, how do you see Chelsea, Newcastle, City doing midweek?" I see Newcastle potentially having some joy in terms of hurting Barcelona. Whether that would be enough to get a result, I'm not sure. Chelsea, as mentioned earlier, I think have got a decent chance across the two legs against PSG. I fully expect Manchester City to eliminate Real Madrid fully. Very confident in that. Historia Films Kenya says, "Hi James, what is your suggestion for the triple captainship?" Hold it, mate, because as discussed, there's every chance City will have a random double somewhere else. At the moment, it looks more likely to be at the end, so not conflicting with other chip usage. So at the moment, sit there, leave it, keep it in your pocket, don't do anything about it, mate. Omesco says, if on wildcard 32 par, thoughts on Miley to Tavernier, bench Rayan at Burnley. Would normally stick to my guns in this situation, but Tavs has looked so on it. Plus, looks like Miley will be a problem for 31. Yeah, I understand that. And obviously, then you can play both in 31. I asked Neil Grover directly on Clash of Correspondence. You'll hear on Wednesday. Let's talk it. Tavernier versus Rayan. And yeah, look, the answers, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, is similar to where you're at. But there's not any downplaying of all Rayan's shit. Or it's just Tavernier's obviously come back and looked exceptional. Joe Pickles says, "Hi mate, as a City fan, I'm really confused now on best 11. Marmoush and Savinho were outstanding yesterday. Thought in general our best performance in ages. Certainly a big away game, yeah. Really good, fluid. I think Newcastle ultimately did play into that and might have started having eyes on Tuesday against Barcelona. But yeah, very good from City. I just said this with David on the UCL Fantasy podcast that, you know, even Pep seemed more up for it than what you'd expect for like FA Cup 5th round game. So there was a very good response from the Nottingham Forest game. I don't think it means that if the likes of Haaland had played last night that it wouldn't be that way. But ultimately, in terms of link build up, we say it a lot. You can't replace Haaland's goals, but the team ethic sometimes does work better without him. That's not calling him lazy or anything. It's much more comfortable for a Marmoush to drop short or drop wide. Also interesting, I felt Saturday night that it felt more like wide players, whereas we've kind of almost seen like a diamond/box behind the front two recently. So not just Haaland, but obviously no Semenyo in the team as well. And ultimately they will be back in it. Andrew Clark says, "Evening James, I like you bench boost in 28 for a massive 2 points. Well, you got 100% more than me then, mate. Well done. 7 points in total from my 2 on the bench boost. Wildcard and 3 hit in hand. Game at 31, no issue, as already have 11. What's the best projections for us moving forward?" At the moment, we consider 32 as part of our plans and nothing more than that at the moment. Keep it simple. Roseanne Fleur says, free transfers of 5 players blanking in 31. Sell Rodgers or Wilson or roll to 4. 5 players blanking have good fixtures this week. I'd need to be very confident Wilson was going to start to make that move. So at this moment in time, I'd have to say no. Janaga says, "What's the game plan for Atletico to get anything?" Any slim belief in North London derby UCL semis still left? No, I've not thought about it, mate. Listen, it's not impossible that Tottenham would beat Atletico, right? It's not impossible that Tottenham would maybe beat Newcastle over 2 legs after the international break if we got people like Kudos back and stuff like that, right? No matter what team we got available won't beat Arsenal. So what's the point? Simon Baker says, "James, can you please explain the importance of Palace v West Ham on MF33? Does it mean that Liverpool v Palace in 34 is much trickier to bring forward? Same for West Ham v Everton." West Ham v Everton, yeah, there could be a consequence where that goes into a different week. That's a possibility. What we'll also get is obviously the West Ham have to win tomorrow night, first and foremost. What we need to get, and we'll get before the FA Cup quarterfinals is played, is the announcement for match week 35. So in terms of TV picks, so we need to check that they don't do anything cheeky in that week. So for example, under a circumstance where they pick Brentford West Ham as the Friday night game, they're going to block West Ham Everton from staying in 34. We have to watch out for these little things. So yes, it could have a little bit of an impact on West Ham versus Everton because that doesn't have to go into 33. But I'm telling you, and I promise you, if Liverpool or Palace are still in Europe, if Aston Villa beat Lille and Liverpool reach the FA Cup semi-finals, I am telling you with 100% certainty that Liverpool v Crystal Palace will go into game week 33. Because it has to. It has to. Because there is a scenario where Aston Villa versus Liverpool has to go into 36. Okay? We have to factor that in. Could they do something like leave Liverpool Palace for 37? That's so wild and out there. I just can't believe that they'll do that. So wild and out there. So, look, the provision for Palace West Ham, if you read the statement from the Premier League, it specifically said that the game was scheduled for the Monday night, subject to Cup and European commitments. Okay, so from a Crystal Palace perspective, they'll play, even if they're still in Europe, they played the Thursday before. So the European commitment doesn't reference towards Crystal Palace. The reference is to Liverpool. I.e. the reference that, okay, well, if Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-final, we've got to bring their game with Palace forward, so we bring this forward. Like I said, that's not quite the scenario with Man City and Crystal Palace, right? So don't assume, Liverpool Palace, Liverpool don't reach FA Cup semi-final, so Man City Palace definitely going to go in 33 instead. No, it's different. It's because Liverpool are scheduled to play Aston Villa in game week 37. That's the problem, because the Europa League final was the midweek afterwards. We can't push Villa Liverpool back. You'd have to bring it forward. Could Liverpool Palace, in theory, go in that midweek? Yeah, could. Might get awkward if Brentford make the FA Cup final as well. They're still in it. That's who Palace are scheduled playing 37. It's complicated, but ultimately, Liverpool v Palace will go into 33 as long as Villa beat Lille, and if Liverpool make the FA Cup semi-final. Straightforward as that. Roseanne says, goalkeepers, Sanchez or Dubravka, go changes with 3-3 or roll to 4-3 transfers. We actually discussed this on Clash of Correspondence, Roseanne, the idea of if you've got something like Sanchez and you're like, shit, where am I left with? It's just played Dubravka. Now, if you've used a wild card, that might be a different scenario, but I'd probably not waste the transfer till I have more information. Let's say Sanchez isn't going to play against Newcastle next week. Maybe there was just something where he decided to play Jorgensen for whatever reason against Villa. Maybe that's just it, and that's the end of it. So we don't know yet. I would say Dubravka home to Bournemouth. I'd probably just play him in the first instance and see where you sit afterwards. Eddie S says, when we win in Budapest, but we'll be facing Lincoln in the league next season, will we still be able to play in the Champions League? Yeah, of course, mate. I don't know how it would be done. I suspect there might be something there where Tottenham withdrew from the Carabao Cup. They might have to. But you think if Tottenham got relegated and qualified for the Champions League, they're not going to take the money of the Champions League games? Don't be silly, mate. Yeah, we'll play in it. I don't know how it would work, but you don't need to worry about it. We ain't winning it, mate. Mike says, evening, James. On Burnley, have they decided to go all out for wins in hopes of survival? And does that make them more likely to score and also to concede, considering starting Hill and buying Tavernier? So you could look at it that way. But I think ultimately, Burnley's best strategy in many games, and Jack talks about this on Clash of Correspondence, it's still that they may be more likely to cause an upset by frustrating an opponent rather than going for it. Ultimately, if Burnley just trade punches, they're probably going to get beat, right? So I don't think it makes them go all out, mate. Rhino says, hi, mate. Would you keep Munoz, start him and have Rodon, as first defender sub? Depends on what the outlook is. If Daniel Munoz gets the pass that he's fit and available for Leeds at home, you probably still want it, right? Ultimately, if he's ruled out, it's blank, isn't it? It's a definite sell under that circumstance. The Reaper says, would you play bench boost this game or wait for the double? Mate, it's hard enough to answer these questions when people give me player scenarios. How in the world am I meant to answer it at this moment without even knowing what people have got in their team? Again, we'll discuss options on Thursday. Greg says, question for 31. Which player would you sell out of? Gabriel, purchase price 6.2. Haaland, 14.1. Semenyo, 7.7. O'Reilly, 4.9. Don't own Ekiteke. Maybe it's Haaland. I think you've answered your own question, Greg. Neil says, hi, James from New Zealand. What are your thoughts on taking out Rice and Munoz this game? If you have 3 free transfers, we'll have 6 non-players for 31. I could also take out Haaland and have 0.6 million in the bank. Guess what I'm going to say? See what that draw brings you tomorrow night, mate. Munoz, again, if he's ruled out, fairly straightforward. Rice, Haaland. Rice, I'm pretty confident will play against Everton. I wouldn't be desperate to bin him before that fixture. AP UK says, what are your top 3 captains this week? In order, my top 3 captains this week, as it stands right now, if I had to lock my team in, would be Ekiteke, Fernandes, Haaland, that order. That would be the order as it stands. The most likely thing to change to that would be maybe Salah above Haaland. Shivnantar says, if you were a neutral, whom would you predict to go down at this stage? But Tottenham, as I said, I don't understand why anyone doesn't think it will be Tottenham. Just on what they're seeing with their eyes. But it's Tottenham. It won't be Tottenham. Okay. If that's how people feel, it's fine. But I don't think my assessment of Tottenham at this point in time is like based on our negative mindset of fan or whatever. It's plainly obvious to my eyes that Nottingham Forest and West Ham are better teams than Tottenham. Tottenham have 12 points from the last 20 games. It's over half a season. If Tottenham had taken 12 points from the first 20 games of this season, what would you have been saying after 20 games? They're fucked. Same thing, mate. Status says, how do you see Haaland to Thiago if it looks a good chance he doesn't start West Ham? Otherwise, I would need to downgrade Rice to 5 million to get him for Barnes. That's really confused me, Status. Rice to get him for Barnes. Who are you getting for Barnes? You ain't getting Thiago for Barnes. I don't know why you'd buy Harvey Barnes at this point. Are you downgrading Barnes? I'm very confused, mate. Again, this is on how you feel about Haaland after the game in the Bernabeu, right? Eric Onstad says, evening, James. Why did not Spurs get a coach playing offensive, attractive football like De Zerbi? Ask them, mate. I don't know. I can't speak for them. They're brain dead. Not that I think De Zerbi would have been the answer. Shivantar says, what's your opinion on Slot as a coach and tactical ability? He's a great manager, but I think Liverpool's last title was purely Klopp's work. No, I don't think that's fair. I think, look, he built upon Jurgen Klopp's successes at Liverpool. I don't think Jurgen Klopp was ever going to play Ryan Gravenberch as a number 6 last season. So I don't think that's fair. Liverpool were not close to win the league the year before, mate. So no, he deserves great credit for what he achieved last year. You were right. There were foundations there that were built upon. I just think, truthfully, I think the more they've moved away to a more... I think the word is conservative. A more conservative approach with the ball. But that's also a consequence of Salah slowing down, loss of Trent, even loss of Jota, unfortunately, as well, has had an impact on these sort of things. That the more they move from that, the less likely they look. Look, unless Liverpool win the Champions League this year, I think they'll probably appoint Xabi Alonso in the summer. Volva says, good evening, James. Would you buy Tavernier or Elliot Anderson as a cheap mid to upgrade third forward? Wildcard in hand, no real plan when to use it. Tavernier for me. Yeah, I'd chase that personally. Gosh, it's 9:05. Right, I tell you what. I'm in a decent mood. General Zod has just posted a question at 9:03 p.m. I'm gonna get to you, mate. I'm gonna get to you. Rhino, do you think Spurs will be in this situation if Frank would have been sacked earlier? Also, do you think Tudor will still be Tottenham manager at the end of the season? Do I think we'd be in this position if Frank was sacked earlier? No. But I also think that they didn't do it because they knew they wanted to go back for Pochettino this summer and therefore only wanted to look at interims. Will Tudor still be Tottenham manager at the end of the season? Depends on the next 2 weeks, mate. Because if he doesn't win a game, then he's probably gone. Jay Guy says, how guaranteed are we to have another double game after 33 still have triple captain to use? You're not. Under a circumstance where Man City lose their FA Cup quarter-final, maybe their fixture with Palace would slot into 33 if Liverpool also go out. So maybe not. But it probably at this moment probably needs Man City and Liverpool to both go out the FA Cup for it to, even then it's still possible, by the way, but for it to be unlikely. So guaranteed is the wrong word, but likely at the moment, yes. Patrick Wolf says, hello mate, do you think Semenya regrets his decision to declare for Ghana? Would be a shoo-in for England now on current form? No, I don't think so. You'd have to ask him. Only he could answer that question. I don't suppose he'd ever tell you publicly, even if he did. So look, I don't think that's fair to say. I don't know enough about his historical background and relevance of how important it was or wasn't for him to play for Ghana. I have no idea. I think it would, without knowing that, it would be disrespectful for me to suggest that, yeah, he has regrets. I have no idea. Maybe his life ambition was to play in AFCON. I have no idea. Eddie S says, can't we just get Super Yan in as caretaker player manager? I reckon he'd get the boys up for it. You ask him, Eddie. Well, why would he do it? Status says, also, I would likely have to get rid of Nunes or Rice to field 11 in 31. How do you see Nunes from now on? He has given me so many points and it's an underrated pick. It's hard to sell him. True. I'd note that obviously, and he did play really well last night. Could John Stones play right back at West Ham? It's an open question. I don't know the answer, right? Again, it's maybe see how we feel on Wednesday. But I'd be very surprised if Declan Rice didn't play against Everton. On that basis, even if then you were to end up dead end to 32 rather than 31, Nunes goes to Chelsea. It's an away game. I'd probably sell Nunes first, if need be. But yeah, look, he's been very good for Manchester City. Harry Trimble says, James, what will Spurs' game plan be in Madrid? God knows. Played 3 different systems in 3 different games so far, so I don't have a clue, mate. But I imagine it will be quite defensive, I would imagine. Craig Meredith says, is selling Munoz a no-brainer or keep on bench we can deal with in 31 with 3 free transfers? Again, depends on his injury status, mate. If he's ruled out, it's a sell all day long, isn't it? Jigsaw Kid says, do you think Spurs would still be in trouble if you signed Morgan Gibbs-White? Don't know. Maybe Forest would have more points because they'd have bought someone else who got them 15 goals. Who knows? It's buts and maybes. Like, on the face of it, Morgan Gibbs-White would walk into my team. Certainly would have helped, but I don't think it's worthwhile going backwards, mate. Miles Strachan says, hello, James. Never said hi before, but BT sub here wants to say thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, mate. Sush, David and Clates have put in over the last year. You guys are part of my everyday. Thank you, mate. I very much appreciate it. And if you guys would like to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Neil Grover, he's in. Says, hi, James. Just wanted to shout out the AFCB women who are smashing it on the cusp of WSL2 for the first time. So I said to Neil before we started recording, anything you want to cover? And he said, I'd like to mention Bournemouth's women's team. And then he forgot. So well done, Neil. Neil Kagan would like everyone to hit the like. Sorry, this individual's got letters in a language I can't read. Says, hi, James. Who would you pick from those 3? Hill, Rayan and Tavernier. I need 2. I mean, if I'm investing now without knowing what you're selling, I'd probably say Hill, Tavernier at this moment. User DP says, why would you do with Sanchez, Jimbo? What would I do with him? It would depend on what my other keeper was. If I had another keeper who wasn't playing, problem. If I had the Bravcar, I'd leave it be for this week. Neil says, Hill and Tav, mate, as you'll hear on Clash of Correspondence this week. That's in response to the previous question. Miles Strachan says, you may have already covered it, but what did you think of Bale's appearance on the Stick to Football podcast? Found it very insightful personally, especially his sentiment about Tottenham's problems. I'll be very honest with you, Miles, I've not seen any of it, mate. So it's on my to-dos. I've not seen any of it, so I can't really comment, I'm afraid, mate. Anas Serhom says, would you bench boost with Anderson, Chalobah, stack the Bravcar? Don't love that. Again, Chalobah definitely plays in Paris. 90 minutes. Might you get a rest home to Newcastle? I don't love that, mate. Kind Blom says, hi, James and chat. How much more important would you say assets with penalties is now that the game is a bit rougher in the box, especially the doublers in 33, Palmer, Gordon, Haaland, etc.? Personal view that I think generally we probably overvalue penalties. I don't know if Tottenham have had one all season. in the league. I'm not sure if we have. So I think it's Solanke, if you're wondering. It depends if he's on the pitch or not. I don't know if we've had a penalty all season. I'm not sure. You have years like last year where it feels like Liverpool getting one every other week. It's like, oh, I'm desperate to have Salah, isn't it? I don't know. Our penalties up this year against last year. Feels like probably not. So I wouldn't feel any different to it to normal, mate. 9Tank7 says, hi James, great content, keep up the good work. Are there any companies or brands that you would not let advertise on Planet FPL podcast? It would be wrong for me to name specifics, but let me just say that we would have a viewpoint that there are certain organizations that we wouldn't want to be associated with. And not necessarily them as in the specifics, but the type of product that they sell or wish to advertise. I wouldn't want us to be in collaboration with. I'll just leave it there. Omar says, hi James, any plans for Clayton to come on the pod this season? Yeah, Clayton just needs to message me whenever he's ready. He's really busy. He's got lots going on. Clayton could message me tonight and I'd say, let's get a pod in for the following week, right? So just Clayton knows we're here whenever he's ready. Vindaloo says, safe travels. Good luck, James. Thank you. Greg says, if you're enjoying the Sunday stream, could you like the video? It's free. Also, definitely sign up to Patreon as a free member. Doesn't need bank details, so you can watch the Planet FPL best bits. You could, yeah. A try before you buy, if you like. And if the register, I think, an email address, I think. You get the best bits every Friday. Gives you a flavour of some of the stuff that we do on Patreon. User says, could you ever see a regular Sunday slot? No. Life's too important to me, mate. So I've accommodated this where, like I said, I didn't watch any football today. So I spent the afternoon with my son. Spent all of yesterday with my son. That can be challenging if I've got to watch a lot of football over the weekend sometimes. So no, I'm not doing a regular Sunday slot. If there's any other creators think I've trodden on their toes today, it's not intentional. It's a one-off. I'm not going to say I'm never going to do this again, but no, my weekends are my weekends. I do a lot of content that I fully intend for that to stay Monday to Friday, with the exception of deadline streams early enough on a Saturday. By the way, good reason for you to want Tottenham to stay up. I'm going to play havoc with deadline streams next year. Tottenham will have so many Friday night games next year. So less deadline streams, sorry. LC says, hi James, who do you predict to win the Champions League? I personally think Chelsea or Liverpool have an outside chance. Probably unfair to probably say they've got an outside chance. They've got a decent chance. I think Liverpool in a good position in terms of better draw than Chelsea. I think 4 of the English sides have a decent chance. If Madrid can find a way of getting through the Manchester City game, then they're obviously contenders, and there's just something about them. Bayern Munich, I think, have every chance of going deep. I think if they play Man City in the quarterfinal, that's unmissable television, basically. And I don't have to worry about missing it because my team won't be in that stage. Arsenal should be minimum semi-finalists, right? I'm sure Barcelona probably think the same thing at this moment, although Atleti, I'm sure, will give Barca a game. And no doubt that they'll find challenges at St James's on Tuesday night as well. But projected final at the moment for me would be Bayern Munich versus Arsenal. FPL Yellow Army says, what's the best FA Cup draw possible for Port Vale to have the chance of reaching the final? It's fairly obvious, isn't it, mate? Southampton at home. It's got to be, isn't it? Thomas Thornton says, who should I bench? Oh, you're saying reaching the final. Okay, so 2 games. Southampton at home plus a heavily distracted West Ham or Leeds in the semi-final. Thomas Thornton says, who should I bench? Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Rayan, Semenyo, Sade, Thiago, Haaland, Ekitike. Suppose Haaland could be out. There's that, yeah. From that lot, very reluctantly, it'd probably have to be Rayan, mate. Super squad for 30, mate. OG FPL says, hi James, I'm planning to, but Solanke in 31 for Haaland. I have Thiago and Ekitike convince me otherwise. The audio listeners won't have got that, but I hope my eyes really just did that, mate. Thing is, and I mean this genuinely, Tottenham have 3 options that can play number 9 at the moment. Matisse Tell thinks he's a 4th, but I'd rather he plays on the left. So any given game, after a bad result, you can expect change. So Solanke got the nod on Monday. Solanke didn't start the North London derby. Richarlison's fitness is improving. Wing Lamb says, evening James. João Pedro single-handedly killing my team. 1 free transfer. I have Haaland, Thiago, Ekiteke. Is there any room for him? And when is a good entry point to get him? If so, the entry point is on Friday or Saturday morning. Or Friday night or Saturday morning. If you don't think Haaland's going to play and you think João Pedro is going to play, you're not selling Thiago Ekiteke this week, mate. You're not. Steve Guiner says, hi James, 2 free transfers. Would you transfer out Haaland and Lafay for João Pedro and Salah captain? Already have Ekiteke and Thiago. You probably recently joined the stream and it's very much subject to how you feel about Haaland, I think, come the weekend. Mr. Josilowski says, my team has multiple 31 blankers. What would free hit 31 mean for the future chip strategy? All others still left. Okay. There is a way that you might be able to navigate it where you might be able to just run through to dead end 33 and then wildcard 34. That's basically your only way out, because everyone who doubles in 33 is probably going to blank in 34. There is an exception where Man City, small chance, could be an exception to that. But that's where you're at, mate. So, my opinion, nearly everybody, the free hit will be better use 33 or 34. Elston Wick White says, hit the likes, people. General Zod, I got to you. Do you think Dyche would change your opinion on Spurs survival? No, I'd only need to ask a Nottingham Forest fan, and I'm sure they're feeling more confident than they were a few weeks ago. He says, apologies for already asked. I only just joined the stream. No problem. Go on then. I'll cover these all off. Bench Jam says, Captain Wilson 31. If he starts against Nottingham Forest, that's my intention. And I asked Jack about that, our Burnley correspondent on COTC as well. Thomas Thornton says, you're a good one. Good luck getting to top 1K, and I really hope you stay up too. Thank you. I'll take the staying up over. Give me 100k rank now, and I'll take survival. Give me a million rank. Gary Allen says, tempted to sell Haaland. That injury he posted, fixture congestion and the blank, all gearing towards the goat. Salah, Cole, gear up to it after Wednesday night. Ashley Blacknell says, enjoy your travel tomorrow. Good signs, thank you. Gary says, you probably covered my question 100 times already, so apologies. No problem at all. Actually, all covered. Thank you, guys. Before I go, content this week, just let you know, that show with Nico, nice relaxed chat, where it's completely it's planned from Nico's perspective, but I have no idea what he's going to bring to the table. Tomorrow on Tuesday, sorry, I keep thinking it must be Monday. It's not, it's Sunday. Wednesday, clash of correspondence, Burnley versus Bournemouth with Jack Tone and Neil Grover. Thursday, chips and strategy again. I can't do it any earlier because I'm not going to be in the country. Friday, the weekend, with myself and David, we'll discuss all the fallout from the European games. Yeah, if we think Haaland's going to start, João Pedro, all these sort of things, we'll cover that bit off on Friday as well. As I said, if you'd like to support the show, or if you can support the show, www.patreon.com/PlanetFPL. Plenty more going on there. As I said, you can join as a free member and get access to the best bits available every Friday. Basic tier will get you no ads and earlier releases. Basic Plus will get you access to Slack and also access to my planner. Intermediate will get you access to all the podcasts. And Advanced tier will get you all the additional video content as well, which this week will include Team News Stream be Saturday morning. Remember, deadline stream for everybody is 12:30 deadline stream. This Saturday, Team News Stream for my Advanced tier patrons will be 10:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Got plenty more on there. As I said, Arnie Dozier's coming on. They're going to pick an all-time 11 of black footballers in the Premier League. We've got Nico's Corner tomorrow. I've got Midweek FPL Dilemma later in the week, focusing on my own team and current upcoming decisions. And away days from the Wanda Metropolitano, which will also feature a trip inside the Santiago Bernabeu, because I'm going there on Tuesday afternoon as well. Podcast this week, we'll have UCL Fantasy and Q&A available on Patreon tomorrow. Wednesday, Nico and Oni are doing racism in football. Thursday, I'll be back and I'll do Tottenham with Serge, and we'll have our Game Week 30 preview podcast, the differential show, on Friday. If you'd like to support the show, as I said, it's www.patreon.com/PlanetFPL. But otherwise, just leaves me to say, for the audio listeners, a 5-star review goes a really long way. If you're on YouTube, smash a like, hit the sub button, tell your friends, love you lots. And for the audio listeners, cue music, please, man child.